So this is a guided walkthrough for the Trust Challenge. This is a Docker CTF challenge that's hosted over at dockerlabs.com, or sorry, dockerlabs.es. So the first thing we need to do is we need to download the challenge. So under the very easy category over here, in Spanish it's muy fácil, there's the Trust Challenge here. We need to click on this button to download the challenge. It's going to bring us to the mega.nz website where we can download the challenge. Click on the download button, and it's going to download pretty quick because this challenge is only 140 megabytes. So this is it's not very data intensive to download these files, which makes it easy in case you've got hard drive space issues. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the downloads directory now. So we've downloaded the file, trust.zip, and what we need to do is we need to unzip the file. So we're going to do unzip trust.zip, and that's going to unzip two files, autodeploy.sh and trust.tar. So what we need to do for these challenges is we need to use the autodeploy script here. So we're going to make this script executable with the chmod +x command here on autodeploy.sh. After we do that, we see that autodeploy.sh is executable now. So when we run the autodeploy.sh script, it's going to deploy the Docker container that we specify to it in the form of a tar file. And in this case, it's trust.tar. Once we do that, the Docker container is going to deploy. And so we get this message. It says, we are now deploying the vulnerable machine. Please wait a moment. And then it tells us that the machine is accessible at this IP address here. So the IP address here is 172.18.0.2. We're going to be running some scans against the Docker container to hack against it. So we're going to go back to our nmap tab over here, and we're going to run nmap against the Docker container on this IP address with these arguments here. We're going to scan every port on the server with this option here, -p-. We're going to run it to run common scripts and get versioning information for whatever services we find with this argument here. We're going to run it very verbose, which means we're going to get output before the scan is finished with this flag here. And we're going to run it very fast, but not too fast with this flag here, -t4. The last thing we need to supply is the IP address that we're going to scan against. Anyways, let's run the nmap scan. And we see that we've got 2 ports open on the system. Let's take a look at what came back in our scan. So we found port 22 and port 80. This is pretty typical for these kind of challenges. Usually you find some sort of vulnerability on port 80, which is the web port, and then you use the information that you get from that to log into SSH, which is on port 22. So let's see what's going on over here. So port 22 is running SSH, which is remote login, of course, and port 80 is running the web page. So what we need to do is we need to figure out what's on the web page in order to do our hacking. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to enumerate the web server and find out what endpoints exist on it. So I'm going to be using a new tool over here, and it's called FerrixBuster. So FerrixBuster is an alternative to GoBuster, which is another very common directory enumeration tool. And what we're trying to do is we're scanning the web server here, and we're trying to figure out which endpoints, which directories exist, and which files exist on the server. So when we run FerrixBuster, we need to specify a URL. We need to specify a depth. So the one thing that FerrixBuster has over GoBuster is that it runs recursively. So if it discovers a directory, it'll go inside that directory to try to figure out what's in that directory as well. So that's called recursion. And of course, we need to supply a word list. So most of these tools rely on word lists to run properly, and a proper word list for directory busting has a lot of commonly used directory and file names. So in this case, the typical one that we use is located on Kali in the user share word lists dirbuster directory list. Well, this is the directory list 2.3 medium file. The last thing we're going to specify when we're using FairXBuster is the file extensions that we're going to try to look for. So because we're dealing with Linux challenges here, and all of these Docker containers are running Linux, we're going to be looking for these file extensions over here. So HTML, PHP, TXT, BAK, JS. There are a bunch of common file types that we could look for, but we're going to start with these ones over here. Oh, this doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because it's not the right IP address. So the IP address that we're scanning against is number 18 and not number 17. So let's go ahead and run it against 18 instead. Okay, so what I like about FairXBuster is that the interface is actually pretty. It looks a lot nicer than the one for GoBuster. So I guess I'm just a sucker for colorful things and nice looking interfaces. And in this case, it found us this endpoint over here. So this endpoint here is called secret.php. So we're going to go ahead and try to access this inside of our web browser. So in our web browser, we're going to navigate to this secret.php endpoint. And this is in Spanish, so we're going to translate this this text. And it says, "Hi Mario, this web can't be hacked." Oh, really? Okay. All right. So what did we get from this page? So we got a username. So the username is Mario. So what we can do is we can try to hack. We can try to brute force Mario's password on SSH. So we're just going to keep track of this username. I'm going to make sure that there's nothing inside of the HTTP source here. There's nothing super important here. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to brute force the password for Mario. And we're going to do it over here in Kali Linux. And we're going to use the Hydra tool. So Hydra is a brute forcing tool. We can use it for online attacks. And in this case, we're going to try to figure out what the password is for the Mario user. So let me go ahead and fix this up before we conduct our attack. So the username is Mario. Actually, yeah, the username is Mario because I was thinking about whether or not it should be capitalized, but in most cases in Linux, all of the usernames are not capitalized. So we need to supply a password file as well when we do these kind of attacks with Hydra. The standard word lists for these kind of brute force password attacks is the rocku.txt list. So the rocku.txt list is a list of 14 million of the most popular passwords. And we're going to be trying all of these passwords against the Mario user on the SSH service on this server right here. So let's go ahead and run this brute force attack. It says too many errors. Could not connect to port 22, socket errors, connection reset by peer, disconnected. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's run this. Let's run this a little slower. So we're running Hydra. We're running it against this IP address right here. We have to specify a number of threads. So it looks like we were getting a lot of errors because we were sending our request too fast. Well, that's my guess. we provide a username, which is Mario, and then a password list, which is rocky.txt. We specify that we're attacking the SSH service, and then we provide -v for verbose output. Okay, let's try that again. So we found a valid credential match. So the login is the user Mario with the password chocolate. So we can go ahead and log into this using SSH. So Mario and chocolate. Let's do that. So SSH into the Mario user on 172.18.02. So it asks us to continue connecting, yes. And then the password is chocolate. Okay, and now we're in. Who am I? It says we're Mario, which means we get to call on Scary Hacker Voice Man again.
Hey everybody, it's me, Scary Hacker Voice Man. Scary Hacker Voice Man comes out every time we break into a server, and we just broke into this one. Well, Mr. What is this one called again? This one is called, hold on, what is this one called? It is called Trust. Yes, okay, let's go back. Mr. Trust Administrator, it looks like you decided to leave some weird-looking endpoints on your system, huh? Secret.php? Who could have guessed that? I did. Ha 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 ha. We accessed your secret webpage and we found your credentials. Oh, wait. We found your username there. It was only a matter of time before we could brute force our way in as the Mario user, and we found your password, chocolate. Well, now we're in, and it looks like you lose. Anyways, goodbye.
All right, so we're in. So what can we do now? Of course, the first thing we like to do when we arrive on these systems is we try to figure out if we have any sudo permissions as our current user. So we're working as the Mario user, and we can try to figure out if there are any sudo permissions for this user by giving this command here, sudo-l. When we give the sudo l command, we're going to need to provide the password for Mario. We know what the password is chocolate. So it says here that Mario may run the following commands on this server right here. So this is the name of the server, of course, and so the Mario user can run this binary as the root user. So it says user bin vim. So Vim is a very popular text terminal text editor. So one thing about Vim is that it can be used for privilege escalation, and we can look it up over at the GTFObins website over here. So GTFObins is a resource that we can use to figure out what Linux binaries can be used for privilege escalation. So, I mean, that's not the only use of the website, of course. But what we can do when on the GTFObins website is we can look up binaries, for example, Vim, and we can see if we can do privilege escalation with them. And for Vim, there's a lot of capabilities we can use with it. So we can look up the one for sudo, which we have. We have the sudo capability for it. And it says here that if the binary is allowed to run as superuser by sudo, it does not drop elevated privileges and may be used to access the file system, escalate, or maintain privileged access. So basically, all we need to do is run this command right here, which is going to have Vim run the command bin sh. So bin sh is a shell command. So if we can get Vim to run the bin sh command and it's running as sudo, then it's going to open up a root shell, because sudo, when you run as sudo, you're running as the root user. So let's go ahead and copy this command over here and then go back to the terminal, paste in the command. So we're going to run sudo as the root user. Sorry, we're going to run vim as the root user using sudo, and give this command here, which is bin sh. When we run this command, we're going to see this prompt here. So a good way to tell if you're running as a regular user or as a super user is the prompt type. So this $sign here indicates a regular user prompt, and the octothorpe or the hash symbol here indicates that you're running as the super user or root. If we ask who am I, it says we're root, which means
what are you? I'm system root.
okay, so we're now the root user. So what we can do is we can move into the root directory, and let's take a look at what's inside here. So there's no flag in here because these challenges don't have flags in the traditional manner. What we're going to do instead is we're going to do a little bit of defacing. So we're going to deface the web server. Actually, it's not exactly a web server. We're going to deface the server here by including a little graffiti file in the root directory. So we're just going to echo out HackerFrogs rule, and we're going to output it into a file called graffiti.txt. Okay, and then we're going to see that there is graffiti.txt in here, and if we read it out, it says HackerFrogs rule. So we've left our little mark over here, and this is owned by root, and we're the root user, which means we've effectively finished the challenge. All right, so everybody, that was a guided walkthrough for the Trust Challenge located on Dockerlabs.es. If you enjoyed this guided walkthrough, please leave a like and subscribe on the video, and leave a comment underneath the video. But until next time, HackerFrogs out.
Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming.